If you've got a mental illness, like, turn up. Today's video is going to be a little bit different in the sense that I'm going to be talking about, like, my mental health and mental health in general. I want a lot of the content on my channel to be me, like, sitting down and just, like, talking to the camera like this. And since I am a person that struggles with, like, mental health issues, and I know that when I was younger and even now, I would have, I don't know, found a lot of comfort in the content creators that I enjoyed watching, like, talking about the mental health issues that they were struggling with. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. Honestly, I kind of love how far social media and just people in general have come with, like, destigmatizing mental illness and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, we have a long way to go. A long way to go in that regard. But we've made big steps in the right direction, and I'm very grateful for that, honestly. I'm going to start off by being super transparent about my own mental health. I just so happen to struggle with a fun little cocktail of mental illnesses, which include depression, anxiety, bipolar 2, and PTSD. Fun. I would say that they all affect me, like, on a day-to-day basis, just in, like, daily life, but the one that, like, has been the most outwardly debilitating, I guess, is probably anxiety, especially because, I don't know, I feel like my other mental illnesses heighten my anxiety, if that makes any sense. I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was 11, but honestly, I cannot remember a time where I wasn't just, like, aggressively anxious. Like, I remember, like, have vivid memories being, like, super duper anxious in preschool. I'm pretty sure I came out of the womb anxious, like, just straight into the world, ball of anxiety. And with everything else that I deal with, I feel like there was, like, I can remember points where they were, like, maybe not as bad as other points, but with anxiety, for the longest time, I can only ever remember it being consistently bad. Like, I cannot remember days going by, like, even more than a day going by, where I didn't feel like I was literally suffocating because of how anxious I was. I missed so much fucking school because of it. I would wake up in the morning, like, literally sometimes I would wake up already crying, and I would wake up with just, like, a giant pit in my stomach, and the thought of going to school literally sounded like the worst possible thing I could ever have to do. So I would just fake sick or, like, make excuses and find ways to get out of it and find ways to not go. I fully almost got kicked out of school my senior year because I missed so many days of school because of my anxiety. Like, I just, like, would wake up with a sense of, like, what they call impending doom. Like, I swear to God, I just, like, couldn't bring myself to do it. Even if I, like, deep down wanted to go, I just, like, couldn't get myself to go. The thing that always frustrated me, and actually still frustrates me so bad, is people thinking that I was, like, over-exaggerating or lying or making excuses or, like, making it up. Like, this shit controlled my life, and to have people being like, just relax, simply calm down, was just, like, so fucking frustrating. That shit grinds my gears, like, so deeply. And that's the thing about anxiety, too, is people seeing it as just, like, they hear anxiety and they think of it as, oh, just getting nervous or just, like, a little thing here and there, but, like, that's not what it is. Like, it's so much more than that. Like, it makes normal everyday things hard. Like, normal interactions are hard. Going out in public is hard. And that's the other thing about anxiety, is that, like, while there are definitely parts of it that carry over to just about everybody who has it, it manifests differently in different people. Like, not everybody's anxiety is exactly the same. And, like, everybody has different anxiety triggers and, like, different circumstances and instances that make their anxiety worse. Like, it's not the same things for every person. And there are different kinds of anxiety, too. Like, there are definitely people who have multiple kinds of anxiety, but there's not just, like, one kind of anxiety. Like, there's, like, social anxiety and, like, a bunch of other kinds of anxiety. And I think people on the internet love to have, like, one perfect image of what a certain mental illness looks like, and if it varies even, like, a little bit outside of that, they, like, refuse to acknowledge it as that mental illness, or they, like, think people are lying or, again, over exaggerating. That's just so fucking frustrating. Also, quick side note, I'm kind of losing my voice, not really sure why, but I apologize about that. But yeah, same thing with, like, depression or, like, any mental illness. The internet loves to be like, oh, I support people with mental illness, until people show symptoms of mental illness that aren't, like, easy to glorify or romanticize. Like, for example, a lot of people who are severely mentally ill have trouble and struggle with, like, personal hygiene and, like, basic hygiene. And that's not because they're lazy or disgusting. Like, it's literally mental illness. And people on the internet just, like, don't seem to grasp that. Like, people will talk about how they have trouble showering or trouble brushing their teeth or cleaning their room, and people on the internet will, like, tear them apart and be like, you're fucking disgusting. Like, that person is sick. Like, can you just, like, get a grip? Get a grip. Like, when I was at my lowest, I didn't shower for, like, a week at times. Probably more. I sure as hell wasn't fucking keeping count. Like, I literally gave myself a kidney infection because I was too depressed to get up and pee when I was meant to. Like, there's a funny story about that, actually. It's not funny, but it is a funny story about that. And that is another thing about my anxiety is I have, like, super severe, like, medical anxiety. I'm a really bad hypochondriac. And so, like, my anxiety will cause my brain to think, like, convince my body that it's experiencing symptoms that it doesn't really have. So I'll, like, be fully convinced I'm dying and actually be fine. Super fun, fresh, and awesome. And because of this, there was one year where I went to the emergency room 19 times in 1 year. And one of the times that year that I went was the time that I had the kidney infection. And because I had, like, gone in so many times, I, like, accidentally turned myself into the boy who cried wolf. The girl who cried fatal illness. Because I had gone in so many times and it ended up just being anxiety and being nothing. When I went in for the kidney infection, they almost sent me home because they assumed it was like the other times, but I was like, no, I swear to fucking God, this is different than the other times. I'm actually in so much fucking pain. I'm begging you to run a test or two. And they did, and they were like, oh girl, you could have died. And I was like, sick. Very cool. Very awesome. But basically, all this was just to say that, like, mental illness, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, affects day-to-day life. Like, it's gonna affect a person on a day-to-day basis, and it can be extremely debilitating, and it doesn't look the same for every person, and to just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Have some common decency for human beings, and just critically think every once in a while, you know what I mean? You know how fun? Oh my god, wait. How fun would it be if we just turned this into, like, a fun little, like, self-care together chit-chat? I know I'm, like, halfway through already, but, like, do you guys want to do some self-care with me? Let's go. Okay, we've moved to my bed. I've changed into a big, giant sweater and my comfort sweatpants. I'm feeling very comfy cozy, which is great because 1, self-care, and 2, I'm also on my period, so, like, being comfortable is great. Also, speaking of anxiety and my period, does anybody else, I know at least for me, like, my anxiety, like, heightens a lot on my period. I just feel like I'm so anxious the whole time, and I don't know why. Does this happen to other people? Maybe, again, it is just, like, my medical anxiety, but, you know, because I'm bleeding a ton and experiencing pain, so maybe it's just that, but I don't know. Okay. I've got things to take off my makeup because I'm gonna do a face mask. Because, again, self-care. I'm doing this in my bed, which is probably not the best. I'm also gonna use my phone camera to see. I feel like we're at a sleepover. Isn't this so fun? Let's all just pretend we're at a sleepover together. That's what's happening right now. You viewers, me here, we're all at a slumber party. I'm having some trouble getting the stars off. I usually do that with a Q-tip, but that's okay because the face mask doesn't have to go in the corners of my eyes, so I can just leave that on and take it off when I do the rest of my skincare. Not in my bed. Sorry that you guys can't come for that. Anyway. This is so fun. I hated sleepovers as a child. Would you believe it was because of anxiety? Something about being vulnerable in somebody else's home really just freaked the fuck out of me. Also, I'm scared of the dark and just, like, everything all the time. So sleepovers really weren't my jam. Like, I loved the fun part when everyone was awake and having a great time, but I was not a fan of the sleeping portion. It's face mask time. This is an avocado one, and it smells fantastic. and a little bit like clay, but in a nice way. I don't know if this is a good angle. I wish this camera had like a viewfinder. It doesn't, and I'm worried that you can't see me very well. Sorry if you can't. Sorry if I ruin our sleepover. Just kidding. Again, phone camera. I guess I'm gonna talk about like next the things that I've done to kind of like combat my mental illnesses and like work towards helping myself, if that makes sense. Because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't worry, that's the only like stupid bullshit cliche thing I'm gonna say. I pinky promise you. I pinky promise you. I wouldn't do you like that. Not at our sleepover. Oh, there's a hair in it. Oh, there's hair in my mouth. Oh, there's hair everywhere. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know that there's like one specific thing that I've done that has helped me improve. Like, I've definitely improved. I think that right now I am like the best that I've probably ever been in my entire life in terms of anxiety. I just don't know that there was like one specific thing that got me to this point, if that makes sense. I feel like Shrek, but in like a hot way. You know, it would be so fun if, I know I just keep saying, you know, it would be so fun and acting like we're at a sleepover, but if you went and pause the video right now and then go put on a face mask. Or put on your face mask while I'm putting on my face mask, because it's like we're doing it together. Anyway, back to the topic. Also, sorry if you can hear my neighbors walking around. My floors, no, their floors, my ceilings are alarmingly thin. Something that I have extreme anxiety about is I'm really, really scared that they're gonna fall through the ceiling and crush me. I often can't sleep at night because I'm like panicking about that. Anyway, firstly, I don't know that any of you are like over 21 or how many of you are over 21, but I am, and I recently stopped drinking completely, well, except for like on like super special occasions, like to celebrate and whatnot. But I stopped leisurely drinking and drinking like when it wasn't for celebration, because I really don't think that it was helping me mentally at all. It was definitely making it worse, and I just didn't like who I was when I was drinking and drunk, so I stopped. And I do think that's helped, honestly. Like, I'm not saying that I think everyone should stop drinking. I'm not like being a stick in the mud or anything. I'm just saying for me personally, I've stopped drinking and I think it helped. I also got a nice little snack. I have some grapes. They match my face. I will say I'm not medicated, but I am absolutely not against medication at all. Medication works for a lot of people, and it is a super good option for a lot of people. It's really, really helpful, and it's definitely worth checking out. I just personally am not, because one, I've tried a lot of different medications, and I'm kind of sick of trying new medications, and two, trying the wrong medication made me go a little bonkers and get institutionalized, and that is what led us to the whole bipolar thing. But that doesn't happen to most people, so not really a concern. But the silver lining is it led me to getting help, so fantastic. But yeah, so I'm personally not medicated. Medication is definitely an option for most people. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who understand anxiety. And I'm not saying like only be friends with people who have anxiety. That's a little crazy, right? But I am saying it's important to surround yourself with people who understand your anxiety and are, if they don't understand, are willing to understand and are willing to learn about it. I think that's really, really important. Having a good support system is really important, even if it is just like one person who understands or takes the time to understand. I just think that's really important. And like maybe the other opposite is true, is like distancing yourself from people who refuse to understand and treat you poorly because of your mental issues or like the symptoms caused by your mental illnesses. This is like hard for me to talk about, but I feel like it's important to talk about, so I'm trying, so I apologize if I'm rambling or repeating or not making a whole lot of sense. But I am giving it my best go. Another thing that I personally do is just like when I feel a big wave of like anxiety coming on, I just try my best to stay like grounded in my surroundings and like focus on what I know is real and what I know is really going on and like try and find the root of what's making me anxious. Because I know anxiety often feels like it's coming out of nowhere, it's happening for no reason, it's not actually, like there is no root, but like most of the time, even if it's not the thing that we think we're anxious about, our anxiety does have a root. So like just like trying to find that and then talking myself down based on that. I don't know if this makes any sense at all. Also, I personally get like really bad sensory overload. Like I have some pretty bad sensory issues, and I feel like it's a lot worse when I'm anxious, and also sensory overload makes me anxious, so like they kind of go hand in hand. But so when I'm feeling especially anxious, I just try and like take myself out of situations that have like a lot of noise or like just like a lot of like stimulating sensory stuff, if that makes sense. And then I'll play maybe like relaxing music or my favorite music, just like stuff that I like, or comfort movies. I'm a really big movie person, like a really big movie person. So I'll put on movies that are like comforting to me or just like make me feel good. It's a lot of children's movies, honestly. Horton Hears a Who is a big one. Actually, how I said that I went to the ER 19 times in 1 year. Every single time I got home from the ER, we would watch Horton Hears a Who, and then it became every single night we would watch Horton Hears a Who every time I got anxious, because it was literally every night. So I watched Horton Hears a Who every single night for a year. I also clearly really enjoy stuffed animals. Actually, specifically for anxiety, one of my siblings got me this, it's a weighted dinosaur plushie, and it helps so much. It's like specifically for anxiety, and it's like the most comforting thing ever. I love this guy. Also, he was covering a hole in my wall. If you can now see the giant hole in my wall, just ignore it. I don't know how much you can see, and if you can't see it, there's no hole in my wall. I don't know who said that. Also, my real life animals as well. I have a dog and a cat, and they're not like certified therapy animals, but I swear to God, they're like magic. They might as well be therapy animals. They help a lot. Whatever I can do to make my environment just like more relaxing is usually my go-to, which is hard in public. Public is still like the hardest for me anxiety-wise, because I feel like personally I haven't figured out as many ways to make being in public less like anxiety-inducing. So that's where I still have my biggest problem, I think. When I'm in public, I try to stick to people that I find comfort in. So I like try not to go out in public alone super often. I'm usually with like my best friend or like my brother. My brother is probably like my biggest comfort person. We're like super close. Shout out to him for real, because like I don't think I would have gotten through 90% of my like mental problems without him. So shout out Alex, love you big time. But yeah, I try to stick to like people that I find comfort in. But if I am in public alone, which again I try not to be, but if I am, deep breaths are a really, really big one, which I know sounds so fucking cliche and lame. I know that it does, but it's my personal go-to. Is I just try and like focus on my breathing, not too hard, because if I focus too hard on my breathing, then I get anxious about the way I'm breathing and then feel like I'm suffocating. Not the point. I try and focus on my breathing, just like take deep breaths, and that tends to help me, because again, like staying grounded helps a lot. So like deep breaths, And then also I try and find things like in my eye line that I can focus on, and counting is a really big one, which is weird because I don't love numbers at all. But counting really helps me, so I'll count like tiles if I'm inside somewhere, like ceiling tiles, floor tiles, or like parking meters, doors, windows, really anything, like just like counting whatever I can tends to help. I don't know if it's just like because you're focusing on something else and it's like you're a different part of your brain doing work. I don't know, but it does really help me. I've got my little journal. Actually, I have two. This is my manifestation journal. This is the one where I write like my like daily reflections, how I was feeling that day. Actually, perfect. This is super helpful mental illness wise, like journaling and stuff, because it's just like you're venting and reflecting on how you're feeling, and it helps a lot. Like I swear this is like one of the most helpful things. You can like make it targeted, like you could make it like an anxiety journal or a depression journal, and you could like focus on like the feelings that made you anxious and stuff like that, and that could be super helpful. Or it could literally just be like reflecting on all of your feelings throughout the day, or like your thoughts, getting your thoughts and your feelings and venting out, and it's like very helpful. Like I think ever since like starting journaling has been big for me. Like I think that that's like super important. This is probably like my like fifth one, honestly. My cat is trying to break into my room. I don't know if you heard that, probably not, but like, but yeah, basically I'm gonna end this by saying you are so not alone. Like I know that some of you might feel super alone in these feelings, and it might feel like nobody understands these feelings, but people do. I do, okay? You're not alone, and you've got this. Like, that sounds so fucking lame. I know I said I wasn't gonna say any more cliche things, but like, you've absolutely got this. You so totally do. And I believe in you, and I'm proud of you, and I love you. That was dramatic. That was a lot. But it's true. It is true. Okay, I think it's about time I go wash this off and do the rest of my skincare and go to bed, probably. Actually, I might pull an all-nighter. Not the point. Do you hear my cat trying to break in? Oh my god. Well, I guess I should go let her in. So, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next Monday.